Hello, JW Strugglers. We are going to do yet another interview, and I have to tell you, we've had a lot of good responses to the interviews that we've done so far, and I'm just really excited to talk to who we have to talk to today. It's my friend Mark. I've known him for the last couple of years, and what's cool about this is these interviews are resonating with people in Texas, in Virginia, in California, all different parts of the U.S. But not only that, I'm getting responses back from the UK, from Croatia, from Poland, from Brazil, and that's exciting to me, because what we're seeing is this is not just one guy. It's not me. It's not just one strange person or one bitter apostate. It's people all over the world are streaming out of the Kingdom Hall, because the witnesses love to talk about how many people are coming in, but yet they don't like to talk about how many are streaming out the back. It's an enormous number. And so it's great to hear these stories. We get all these different perspectives. We get all these different life stories and feedbacks from different people that are escaping the cult mindset, that are escaping the Watchtower. And that's what makes these so cool and so fun to do. So again, Mark, thanks for joining us, and thanks for talking with us. Mark, give us your background. Tell us, how you got associated with the witnesses, and what was your life growing up?
Yeah, I was born in as a Jehovah's Witness. My parents were born in as a Jehovah's Witness. My great-grandparents, as far back as I can remember, they were Jehovah's Witnesses. My great-great-grandmother, who passed away a couple of years ago, actually was born in 1913, so right there. And yeah, typical, son of an elder, went out knocking on doors all the time, every week. It was go to meetings all the time. It was very much everything we did. I mean, it was the most important thing in our life. Let's see.
So you had an exemplary upbringing as a JW, and I guess your dad was a long-time elder and all of that.
Oh yeah, since he was like 28 years old. So I was a kid when he was appointed. I barely remember it. Yeah, and then I remember being a teenager. We homeschooled. That was real big in our area. It seemed like in witness culture at the time, homeschool your kids, because it's Satan is going to get to them in the public school system. So we did that, which I always look back on, and I feel like that's kind of a made for socially awkward transition in a lot of ways into the real world that I eventually had to do. But
well, look, don't even get me started on homeschooling, because these witnesses that homeschool, I mean, let's face it, a lot of them just turn out dumb. They just turn out dumb. No, I'm talking about you. Okay, can we start over? No, we don't need to start over, because there's no computer classes, there's no auto shop. But more than that, they don't learn how to socialize with regular kids, with regular people. So you were homeschooled, so you lived this, I'm going to say you probably lived a sheltered life.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you're teenage, you're a young adult, and then did you get married right out the gate like a lot of witnesses do?
Pretty much. Pretty much. That's what happened. I was 18, and she was 18, and yeah, and that's a big thing, I think, because I think about witness culture and being very young and being married, and the pressures it puts on the different sexes, and the kind of the gender biases that it creates. For men, it's this: you've got to be the breadwinner, you've got to take care of all the elements of your family and take the lead and everything. Then you got to be at the congregation, taking care of the congregation, and they want to appoint you to all these different responsibilities. And for me, there was always kind of an issue with feeling like I had the right motivation, and so I never got appointed as a ministerial servant or anything. But on the other side of things, for the woman in the relationship, it's like you can be a mom or you can be a pioneer. In witness culture, those are really the only viable things that you could do, and that, I think, tended to make her put all of that pressure in my shoes. And because I wasn't fulfilling that role, that became a source of contention. And that I can look back on for years in the early parts, and eventually we got divorced, but that's the next part of the story.
Now, you're bringing up specific things. You're bringing up homeschooling, you're bringing up the role of women. Are these things, in retrospect, are these things that maybe stuck out in your mind, and you look back and you think, these were little things that were telling me in the back of my mind, something's not right here?
Yeah.
Was it like that?
I think that's a very good point, and I think those issues specifically, and there's a lot of other things too, and I think this gets into the whole idea of cognitive dissonance, and then just the training of being in that environment, that culture, you learn to just overcompensate for those feelings. It makes me feel uncomfortable to think about this, doesn't feel right, and so I'm going to go read this Watchtower article that explains to me perfectly why it's okay, and then that settles my feelings down. And so, yeah, I think that happened all the time.
Well, when I interviewed my friend Eric Ramos, he's got training in psychology, in psych, and dealing with people with mental issues, and he used the expression, stuffing it down.
Yeah.
You're stuffing it down. So you have these doubts or these questions, and then, okay, I can't think about that anymore.
Right.
I'm going to underline my Watchtower, and I'm going to veg out in front of the TV, and then tomorrow's Watchtower and meeting and all that. And so you're just not going to deal with it. You're just going to push it away, push it out of your mind so that you can cope and continue to function, as one little tiny gear within this huge machine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So you get married kind of young, and you felt that pressure. You have to be the man, you have to be the breadwinner. You got to take the lead.
Right.
Family study, and then where did it? I want to say where did it go wrong? What made you wake up? What was there some key thing that all of a sudden your life changed, and here's how you got out?
Yeah. So my ex-wife tried for many years to pioneer, and she would for on and off, and then eventually she just decided no, she wanted to have a family. So we had our son Jonas, and after probably about 3 years, there was still something not right, and she needed something else, and that was fine. So she ended up leaving, which was a big surprise to me, because
leaving the truth. Oh, I said the truth. I have to take a shot now. Okay, she ended up leaving the witness truth.
Yeah,
yes.
So it was both. It was at the same time. She was very devout.
Right.
And her family was, particularly her father. And she left both the truth and me simultaneously, and it was a very whoa! I did not see that coming.
Wow. So this must have turned your world upside down, because here she leaves. You'd been married, what, 7 years, 5 years, 3 years? You'd married
almost 10.
Okay, so you'd been married almost 10 years.
Almost 10. You're
still young adults, but you're not, teeny boppers.
No.
And she just, bam, she just leaves it.
Yeah.
And so your whole world is turned upside down at this point. Okay.
Yeah, it threw me for a loop, and a big thing I want to point out is there's no grudge, there's no hard feelings. Every relationship takes two people, so that is what it is, and that's,
Well, now you know that everyone's better off after they leave the witnesses anyway, so pretty much, right?
True that.
Okay, go on.
But in the moment, it was very just mind-bending, this change, and then it also started to awaken a lot of these ideas. You were saying before, you can look back and you can say, well, that doesn't feel right, and you're stuffing it down, you're not dealing with it. And then suddenly not feeling that pressure, I've got to be, the spiritual head of the family and all of this stuff. I've got a chance to figure this out for my own. There was an elder for years who used to challenge everyone younger than him, make sure you make the truth your own. And that's, a big...
he would come up and ask you?
Yeah.
Have you made the truth your own?
More or less,
okay.
Yeah. I remember being over his house, and he was going through everybody in the room and challenging them, have you made the truth your own? Have you really done it? And I think that was really the first time, because when he would ask me that, I'd think, yeah, I made the truth mine.
So, Mark, there was one other thing that you wanted to mention. It was a little thing that kind of stuck in your mind as one of those phrases or sayings that really helped you. What was that again?
Well, there was that brother that always challenged me. I had to make the truth my own. And the reality I had to accept was when I realized I couldn't make the truth my own, I had to make my own truth.
So, Mark, your wife leaves the witnesses, she leaves your family, here you are, you're single or you're gonna be single with a small child. I mean, how did you react to that? What happened next?
Yeah, so the explosion of the trauma of that experience, and then also like the reality of I really need to answer some questions, all kind of came to a really negative transition. Unfortunately, I actually found myself on top of the San Marcos Pass Bridge, and the CHP had to come pull me off and throw me in Cottage Hospital in the psych ward for about 3 days. And I think about that a lot. That was definitely my low point.
So you were thinking about ending your life?
Yeah, I really was. I mean, that seemed the possibility, the failure of the relationship, and the possibility that so much that I had believed in and based my life on for so long could be so wrong. It was just too much. It was really just too much. I was surprised though, I actually got a lot of support because the way things panned out, I don't consider myself the victim. But the way Jehovah's Witness, the culture in the congregation projected it, I was totally perceived as the victim in, the dissolution of my marriage with my ex-wife.
Well, whenever two witnesses get divorced, somebody has to take the fall.
Yeah.
Somebody has to be the innocent, hurt mate, and somebody has to be the bad one. So there's no other way with them.
Right, and it wasn't my intention. That's just kind of how things played out.
Right.
And it's not how I perceived it. It's just how things played out and how the culture took it. But
so they're bringing you meals. They're love bombing you.
Yes,
it's okay,
exactly.
Mark. It's okay. Wait on Jehovah.
Right.
Okay.
And I was surprised how consistently that that feeling of community. And again, we're talking about the only community I knew. All my extended family were Jehovah's Witnesses. Everybody literally I'd known outside of maybe a handful of teachers and schoolmates in early elementary school were all Jehovah's Witnesses. So the concept that there could be something else was it just really wasn't there yet. And even though I was starting to challenge these ideas, and my critical thinking was starting to kick in again finally, I found myself just looking for other ways around it. And I would accept ridiculous circular reasonings for ideas that just because I was like, well, I need this, I need this, so I've got to look at it this way. This has to be the truth because it's what works for me.
I need to ask you something because I'm trying to figure out. Okay, you went through this traumatic experience. You lose your wife. Your world's turned upside down. But I'm still trying to figure out what made you wake up to the truth about the truth, or however we want to characterize it. I mean, did that prompt you to go online and Google things, or did it prompt you to talk to a certain individual, or what was it that?
Not so much. I think the reality is that I had little issues all along, like you'd mentioned earlier. All along, there had been small things that would pop up, and I would stuff it down. I would bury it.
Right. Something's not right here, but I'm not going to worry about it now.
But it's like I've got a family. I've got a newborn baby and my wife, and this is what we do, and we've always done. This is what all my family does. What am I going to do with this information if I find out that it's false?
Right.
It wasn't worth the risk of chasing it down. So here all of a sudden my world's exploded anyways, and that potential was there all of a sudden. Like, I guess I could maybe figure this out. But it was, like I said, it was just too much. And so it really drove me down to a low point. And again, the love bombing that happened in that specific instance, I came back from that and was like, okay, this has to be true, and I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to make it true.
Wait, now what has to be true?
The truth.
Okay, the witness. Okay.
After I got out of the psych ward at Cottage Hospital, I spent almost 8 months. I really poured myself into it. Me and my son. Deep study, and hitting all the meetings and taking Jonas out in service all the time.
Trying to be an exemplary witness.
Trying to really live it.
Right. And that didn't do it for you.
Well, about halfway through the process, all of these ideas, they started kicking in, and so then I finally did start looking stuff up. And I was like, okay, read information on C.T. Russell and some of his early teachings, read information on Judge Rutherford and, how he kind of took over. Yeah, all that stuff. And again, it still wasn't enough to kick me out, but it was enough to make me start thinking. I would say probably, at the end of about 8 months of just this process of trying to make it true, I was really teeter-tottering, and interestingly enough, I was really asking different brothers in my hall. I was like, I have really serious issues. I need to talk to somebody about this. Can we sit down and have lunch? And I was kind of like, oh, okay, sure, sometime. Never any follow-up. I asked a brother to study with me. I said, can you please study with me? And he said, well, you've been doing this your whole life. Can't you study with yourself? It was like, it blew my mind. Okay. Like, you guys are shepherds, right? This is what you do.
Well, if you can't count your field service time, then...
Exactly, right? And that actually, I want to go backtrack a little bit because there was one point I wanted to mention.
Go ahead.
During this process, when I was going through the divorce process with my ex-wife, she didn't go through a committee process. She didn't go in front of the brothers at all, but they basically disfellowshipped her, but it was kind of secretly. I remember the elder telling me, he sat down and he's like, yeah, I've talked to so-and-so, I've talked to so-and-so, and I said, defriend her on Facebook, and don't talk to her, and don't listen to her phone calls. They basically disfellowshipped her without any valid reason, just, on the down low. They didn't go through the process, and everybody actively shunned her, and to me, that was one of those cognitive dissonance moments
where you said, okay, she hasn't officially broken some major rule where they could DF her.
Right.
She left the marriage, and then she just sort of started doing her own thing, and then they turned around and this elder starts saying, defriend her on Facebook, don't have anything to do with her.
Yeah. To everyone in the congregation, just publicly, hey, you got to do this one person at a time.
Right.
So
you saw that.
I saw that.
You still had, obviously, you're never going to stop caring for this person. They're the mother of your child, and you're telling us, you don't have hard feelings here. You maybe don't think it was the wisest choice, but whatever. The point is you didn't think that she deserved that, or that was the Christian thing to do.
It didn't make sense. The concept of leave the 99 behind and go after the one. It just that popped into my head, and that's. You guys aren't doing that. I don't understand this.
Okay, all right, I get it. Okay, so you tried real hard to be a model witness. You're begging for help. Will you study with me? All this, and then what? And then where did you go from there?
Well, finally, I accepted a book from somebody. It was Signs of the Last Day When. Signs of the Last Days When.
By Carl Olaf Johnson, right? A very heavy hitter in the...
Yeah, and is that still out of print?
Unfortunately, it is out of print, but if somebody wants a PDF of it, I might be able to figure out a way to get that to you. Yeah, it's an excellent book. He wrote Gentile Times Reconsidered.
Yes.
We know about that one. But he wrote this other book and what did that book, okay, the Sign of the Last Days When is the title, roughly the title. What did that book get across to you?
That demonstrated to me how totally willing they were to be essentially dishonest with statistics and details. So
the last days.
Yeah, it carefully goes through all the ideas of the last days, earthquakes and famine and pestilence and war and and it highlights, okay, this is what the Watchtower, these are their data points that they select to prove their point. Well, then Carl goes back in and he says, well, yeah, but there's also this one, and then there's also this one, and then there's also this one, and you can see how they're cherry picking.
Yeah.
Oh, this one proves our point, so we're going to use that one, even though there's just all of these valid ones that you could use. And it demonstrated to me that they really weren't defending the truth. They were defending their perspective. They were defending what they needed to hold up the organization. And then once that idea was in there, it was like, okay,
So you're reading all this stuff. It's blowing your mind. I mean, it blew my mind. I think all of us can. I mean, there's probably thousands of us watching this that can attest to that. That when you read that stuff and you realize that we've been lied to.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, did you say, I'm going to fade, I'm just going to quit going? I mean, where did you go from there?
Yeah, it was a fading process, essentially. I had a convenient situation where, I needed to move, and I ended up renting an apartment that my mom was letting out, and it allowed me to move from my immediate vicinity and into another congregation's territory.
Good.
So my angle was, hey, I'm moving, and that's all I said. I didn't tell anybody I'm switching congregations. I just said I'm moving, and then I never showed up at the other place, transferred my cards, any of that stuff. So it gave me several months of just like nobody paid attention. Oh, Mark, yeah, he moved. And by the time anyone ever really noticed that I was not really doing witnessy things anymore, it was long enough where they basically left me alone. So I feel good about that.
Yeah. So from that point to now, we're talking what, a year, 2 years? How long has it been since you faded?
That was almost 2 years ago, or I mean a little more than 2 years ago now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
2 years ago.
A little more than 2 years ago. So you were never DF'd. Did they ever bring you up on some charges or any of that stuff?
I was surprised and a little bit disappointed in them that they didn't try. I mean.
Well, this video might help you, Mark. I mean, I'll help you in that regard.
And that's so interesting because there is a big part of me that would love to have that challenge. I don't expect to get anywhere with anybody. But to be able to sit down with these guys that I grew up with and were my, spiritual elders and
mentors,
and whatever, and to challenge these ideas, try to get them to think, explain my perspective, and watch that process of them just unequivocally, no, you don't agree with this statement, okay, we won't talk to you anymore.
Right. Well, look, I mean, here's what usually happens, right? Somebody gets they invited to a judicial committee or invited to meet with the elders, and then within the first few minutes, it's, do you believe that the governing body is God's chosen channel? I mean, they go right back, they go right to these loyalty questions almost every time. And I've heard a lot of these recorded meetings. In fact, I just listened to one recently that is not on YouTube. It may never end up being on YouTube because the guy has reasons. But you listen to these and they all sort of fall into the same little Watchtower playbook.
Yeah.
So you are already going to know what's going to happen if it gets to that point. Here you are, you're using your name. You even mentioned a few locations. You mentioned the name of your son. So if somebody sees this, I mean, is that worrisome to you, or are you just like, I don't care? Or
well, again, it's the same thing. I am. I actively portray that I'm not a witness enough to essentially accomplish the same thing. So, the gossip goes around, and, once people see, because I got tattoos and stuff after I left, and so people see me now, and they don't think witness. They think, what happened to Mark? And then all the cult stuff kicks in, and they run the other direction for the most part.
Yeah. Isn't it nice to just be a regular guy, just be a normal human being instead of,
There's a good story. One time, so once I really got to that point, I sat down with my son. He was 3.5 at the time, almost 4. And I felt like I wanted to explain this to him as best I could.
For age-appropriate explanation.
So I just said, we're not going to do this anymore. We're not going to be Jehovah's Witnesses anymore. I don't feel good about it. There's things that they do and think that I can't agree with, and so we need to do something else. And that was basically all I said. And then we're in Trader Joe's, I don't know, maybe a week or two later, and we see this elder from our other congregation, and he comes running up to us. Like, for him, I think in that moment there was a genuine sense, I haven't seen Mark for a while, I want to check in with him.
We really miss you.
And he comes up, and the first thing that happens is Jonas goes, I know you. You're a Jehovah's Witness.
Oh.
And he says, we're not.
What?
Yeah.
He said we're not.
We're not.
So he spills the beans right off the bat.
And I'm just like, I didn't really acknowledge it or anything. I just kind of smiled real big and looked at the guy and I'm like,
and then so he just said, "How you doing, Mark?"
He didn't say a word. He put his head down and he took off.
Oh, he just took off.
He just took off.
Okay.
Yeah. Which was a shame. He really was my friend. I mean, and it's like one of those things where I think,
so his Apasta vibe, his Apasta radar, like instantly went, and he just scurried away.
Yeah.
He just scurried away. Now I remember when we were first friends, your Facebook was with this different name, and
I did that for a little while.
Yeah, but now you're just you're right. You've got your name attached to your Facebook. You're posting about your life. Your current life now is good or is it bad? I mean, are you just sitting around, just wringing your hands, hating your life now that you've left the Witnesses, or are you happy? Are things better? Where are you at?
It's great. It's absolutely great. I mean, it's a process. It's a big process and it's scary. But I think for me, what I come back to is the concepts of authenticity and intellectual freedom. Those are things that you really don't get to have at all.
Your authentic self as opposed to your cult self. That's
right.
One thing that's talked about, and I think Steve Hassan and talks about that in some of his books about you have the cult personality and then you have your authentic personality. So all of a sudden the real you is coming out. You're able to pursue things. You're taking classes. You're enjoying yoga. You're doing things that are good for your mind and your body. And yeah, it's nice.
It is. It's good. It's all good.
So, where's the happy ending? I mean, you're a single dad now. You've got custody of your son, but you're not.
His mom is still in the picture.
Yeah, well, that's good too, But yet you have a positive spin on life now, and I'm assuming you don't regret what's happened and how you've gotten away, or?
No, I don't regret any of it at all. There's elements of it that are sad. There's people that I miss, good friends that I think, I see walking around, and you just, why can't I go talk to you? But you just, that's not available now.
Right.
But those are real small now compared. You're raised up perceiving when you grow up a Jehovah's Witness that everybody outside of Jehovah's Witness land is bad. They're controlled. Essentially, they're manipulated by Satan to try to make you do bad things.
Us or them.
Yeah, exactly. And then that realization to come out and just meet amazing people, really neat, amazing people. It's fantastic to just be open to just the variety of personalities and people that are out there.
So you don't have some nagging worries that you're not going to get a pet panda someday and eat a bowl of fruit for the rest of eternity. I mean, those thoughts don't haunt you.
And that's interesting because when I talk to a lot of people about religious concepts, because it still fascinates me. And the idea of, an afterlife or an eternity, and a lot of times it still comes up is just like, what do you do when you have no belief? And for me, that liberating feeling of, I don't have to be this perfect biblical version of myself in order to inherit everlasting life. That is just so freeing. I don't care if it's 60 years, it's 60 years of whatever I want. As opposed to, I gotta do this, or it's,
I gotta buy a new package of yellow highlighter pens so I can study my watchtower.
Yeah. It's,
that's nice.
Yeah, so no, I don't, that doesn't come into my mind at all. I'm glad to be rid of all that.
So, it sounds like things are going pretty well for you. I guess one last question I might ask, and I think I know you'll have an answer, but also I think it'll help some of the folks that are watching that are getting out of Watchtower. Are there any things you've done to, kind of deprogram yourself, kind of clean those Watchtower cobwebs out of your mind? And if so, how has that helped you?
Yeah, I think one of the first things that I did was I started taking yoga classes, and that sounds a little cliche, but for me, that was a huge process. I took a whole series of restorative, specifically restorative, which they're real slow and just mellow and just let all of this stuff sink in and process. And I still actively practice. To me, that's been, and it's funny because in JW land, that's kind of one of those no-nos. You don't do yoga. And so it's a liberating feeling too to be able to enjoy this practice.
It's not demonized then.
Not so far. Not so far.
Okay, good. The demons haven't taken you since you've been doing the different poses and whatever.
No. If I meet one though, that'll be kind of cool.
Okay, so you're working on your physical health and your
Yeah, and I think part of that too. It eventually got me to the place where I felt like, okay, I would like to write about stuff. And so I started a blog, and I think that's something that would be good for anybody who's going through this process.
Excellent. Start a blog if you can.
Well, I mean, and even if it's something simple like just throwing, a paragraph on Facebook or something like that, but start processing these ideas because
get it out. Get it out.
I started it strictly for my own benefit, and I thought, hey, if I throw this up there and people read it, whatever, that's good. Maybe someone will benefit from it. But right now, I need to get this stuff out there, and I need to know it's available for other people to experience if they want to.
Right.
And that's a cathartic process.
Yes.
Yeah, and then I finally worked up the courage to go to another church. I attend the Unitarian Universalist Church, which is so polar opposite. They're big on acceptance, and they accept atheists and Buddhists and pagans and Christians and Jews, whatever you want to be.
Gay, straight, it doesn't matter.
Gay, straight, a lot of homosexual people there, and they're all really nice people. I mean, one of the things that really drew me to it when I went there was they had a great kids program, which is like the polar opposite of Jehovah's Witnesses. They don't have.
They have no
program.
kids program.
You sit there and you're bored, draw on stuff. And the leader, he's a gay man, and he's really nice, and he's really good with kids.
Gay men are nice.
Yeah,
as a rule.
But it was just kind of like one of those, mind-bending experiences coming from the cult, concept of, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And it's like, no, these are good people, and you can accept them into your life, and they can be part of it. And
well, Jesus said wisdom is proved righteous by its works.
Yeah.
So when you see positive works, positive experiences, happy people, good social programs, helping people, that's all you need to reinforce in your own mind, this is right for me. This is working for me. And your mental health, your happiness, all that is what matters, and
yeah,
you're doing it.
I'm trying.
Yeah. Well, look, Mark, I really appreciate you. You're talking about some major issues that happened in your life in the last couple of years. So to come and sit in front of a camera and to talk about it, that takes some fortitude. That takes some courage. And yes, there's a possibility that some active JW is going to see this, and then they're going to mark you, they're going to target you, and then they're going to go click, and they're going to call and try to get you in trouble. And at this point, you're saying,
bring it on.
I don't care. Because we know that these men have no power over us. We know that it's just some guy in a suit, carrying around his gray Bible, thinking he's God's.
Aren't the new ones white?
They're gray.
Oh, are they gray?
They're like a very pale gray.
Got it.
But carrying around, thinking they're in Jesus' right hand, and then they're going to be a prince someday over there. So these guys don't have any hold over you or me or any of us, and so you're not worried about it.
Not at all.
Yeah, don't worry, be happy.
Yeah.
I like that. Thank you so much.
Yes.
I appreciate it, and thanks to all of you that are watching. Give us some feedback. Tell us what you think. We really appreciate you watching, and thanks again, Mark, for being with us.
No problem. My pleasure.
The order is rapidly fading, for the times they are a-changing.